Bashan, and I'm a full-time lecturer in writing studies here, and I primarily teach first year composition, but I occasionally, I often teach some other courses as well.
Okay.
So at 19, I was in Chicago. I was an undergraduate at the University of Chicago, majoring in English language and literature was the full title. I was working part-time, about 20 hours a week, I want to say, at a pediatric hospital library, which was not a library for children in the hospital. It was a library for pediatric doctors. Yeah. And in addition to that, I did various extracurriculars on campus. No, my parents are journalists, so I do feel like I always sort of had language in my life, both written and spoken, and that was something that I tended to do well at all throughout school and was sort of in my household environment. But I did not know what I wanted to do, and in fact, when I graduated, I found out like a few days before I got my diploma that I'd been accepted to an AmeriCorps program called City Year in the Seattle area. So I actually was still at that point kind of uncertain about what I wanted to do. I had applied for Teach for America. Are you familiar with that program? Yeah. So it may have changed a little bit since when I was in school, but essentially you go to a school that really needs teachers for whatever reason, and you're there, I believe, for 2 years. You are the teacher. You get some training, but then you're the one in the classroom. And frankly, after working really hard for 4 years in college, that sounded really tiring to me. And City Year, the program I did, was nice because I was in the schools. I was at Washington Middle School in the Central District of Seattle, but I was like a classroom tutor, helper. Right. Kind of, although of course it didn't have nowhere near the training that they have, I assume. But you know, they had an in-school suspension room. Sometimes I would rotate into there and help kids with their homework or their classwork. So I liked that program because it allowed me to get classroom exposure without being the teacher, the one in charge.
Okay.
So I was definitely still figuring things out, even past 19. I should say that, you know, after City Year ended, I still didn't really know if I wanted to be a teacher or at what level. So I had a variety of jobs until I went back to graduate school. Because I'd worked with kids and I knew I liked kids, I continued in that vein. I did various childcare positions, everything from nannying in people's homes to the Boys and Girls Club, after school, summer programming, preschool programming. I had been, for 2 summers during college, I had been a camp counselor and writing workshop teaching assistant at the University of Virginia Young Writers Workshop. So I'd worked with kids of all ages and I continued to do that. I also volunteered as a grant writer for a nonprofit, a couple of nonprofits in Seattle. And eventually I got into being a community college writing center tutor, and that was what got me thinking about continuing on and being able to be the college instructor. The challenging thing for me between high school and college was that my best friend and her little brother were killed my senior year of high school. They were struck by a car, and that happened January of our senior year. So I think a lot of people in my class were very impacted by that, and that definitely affected like the sense of excitement and motivation I had to go into college was totally dampened by the fact that I knew this other person wasn't able to also go on that journey with me, in the sense that even though she would have gone to a different school, you know, she wasn't living that life, right? So it was probably, timing-wise, my application was out when she died. And so when I heard from the University of Chicago, I wasn't particularly, like I said, I wasn't like super jazzed about it, right? Because every milestone like that just sort of reminded me that she wasn't there. But that being said, like, when I got in, my parents were, they were going to help me see that through. And so, yeah, there wasn't like a question about whether I would go to college. It was more getting that help to see it through at that point, yeah. I think definitely the students and other tutors that I worked with this was when it was called North Seattle Community College instead of just college. And I also worked at South as a tutor there as well. And the people that I worked with and the students that I met were a huge inspiration because I really enjoyed being part of those communities and the variety of assignments that I saw and being able to know that you could make, a difference. I was definitely inspired to, get my master's in English because of those people. Well, so I definitely really love the work that I do here with students, and I don't see wanting to do anything different in the foreseeable future. I have a master's degree in English, and some people in my position have a PhD or another terminal degree like an MFA, Master's in Fine Arts. And I've thought about pursuing one of those. I was born with a cleft palate. So there's two versions of it, and sometimes people have one or the other or both. So you can have a cleft lip. Your lip has a cleft in it. I did not have that. I just had the palate, which is essentially like, normally the roof of your mouth is fused, right? It's one thing, but it wasn't fused in my case. And so I had to have, some surgery, some speech therapy, and a lot of times associated with the cleft palate is a hearing loss. So I also had hearing loss that was, I would say, undiagnosed for a little while in my childhood. I got my first hearing aids when I was 9. So definitely not my whole childhood was it undiagnosed. I don't know if I necessarily call any of those traumas, but those were definitely events, and situations that affected my learning and who I was. I don't think so. I mean, it was frustrating. People would get frustrated with me for not hearing them either at all or right away or, having to repeat themselves. And so that was frustrating for me, their frustration, right? But I don't think that it set me back in any significant way. Yeah. The teacher side that you brought up, over the years I've gotten a lot better at making it clear to students from the beginning what my situation is and how if I stand next to you, it's just to hear you, right? And in some ways I think I feel very comfortable walking all around the classroom, in part because I kind of have to. And so I would say that I've gotten better at just sort of making it clear, this is what you can expect from me in this space because of this. I think they were very concerned about the business model of journalism with declining ad revenue, which supports reporters and editors' salaries, the consolidation of a lot of papers into sort of being owned by these bigger companies and what that does to the quality of the product. So I actually think that they were happy I didn't get into journalism. But what journalism has experienced is by no means unique to journalism. There's a lot of business models that are kind of pushed by the digitization of everything, right? Putting everything online, and how do you pay for that, right? Okay. I did do a little bit of writing in college for one of the school newspapers, and then a little bit of writing in Seattle for a community newspaper when I got there. But I don't think I ever really seriously pursued it. Okay. But I do have a lot of respect for the profession.
Well, thank you for your time. I think I'm done here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.